And good evening, everybody. Welcome once again to Going Nuclear, full-blown coverage of the land. I am Ethan Greenberg, and I am joined by my co-host, as always, Madison Delaney. Madison, how we doing here on this fine Thursday evening?
We're doing good. I got a haircut today, so that's nice. The Cavs are about to start, so all is well, right?
Yes, all is well in the world, despite what we were just discussing. It's all great. No, you know what's not great? Let me tell you, our picks last week and our Who You Got segment. Yeah, that was brutal, man. Uh, you and our guest Lysandra went 6-8 in your picks. I was a brutal 5-9. That was awful.
It was tough. It was tough out there.
It was, but the good news is we didn't suggest that anybody, gamble their money away based upon our, knowledge and picks and such. And we didn't lose any money, or at least I didn't. I hope you didn't lose any money either.
Not yet.
Good.
January starts for North Carolina.
Oh, nice. Yeah. See, I have that option here in Virginia already, but I'm just like, nope, I am not smart enough. And I just don't want to lose my money. I guess I'm that cheap too. So folks, we should have a good program here this evening. We are expecting Justin Cooper, who is the Browns beat reporter at ESPN Cleveland WKNR 850. He is expected to drop on by, give us a little bit of time, which we will really appreciate. And that is especially important and noteworthy given that sources have just reported that, in fact, Deshaun Watson will not be playing on Sunday as expected, and PJ Walker will get the start for the Browns. So we'll have to, we'll take that up with Justin when he hops on and see if he's got any insights or thoughts, so on and so forth. But Madison, we were just talking about our days and stuff. And this is crazy. I told you I was a little bit stressed out at my day job, right?
Mm-hmm.
And something weird was going on this morning. And I think I've noticed it other mornings too. I'll be listening to a certain morning program. And for whatever reason, nothing they're specifically talking about. But one of the voices to me is like someone, scratching their nails on a chalkboard. And it actually gives me kind of a visceral, ill feeling response. Is there anything that happens to you like that?
Not for the morning show, not any of the talk shows. I would have to think about that. I mean, like nails on a chalkboard, that kind of stuff for sure. When my dog gets into something he shouldn't get into, the sound of a dog about to throw up, that's never a fun sound.
No, that is not a fun sound. But seriously, and again, I don't know if it's just due to the circumstances, the fact that it's the morning. I'm not exactly, feeling great. I know what's ahead of me for the day. And I just get this ill feeling, and I had to turn the program off.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I was interested, I had to turn the program off. It was just, and it seems like this is not the first time that I have had that happen. And I don't know if it's the program or it's just a matter of this happens to be on at the same time as this other activity. And one has nothing to do with the other. I don't know. This would be a very interesting experiment. Maybe we could find Dr. Pavlov.
It's a bit chicken or the egg, huh?
Yeah, exactly. So while we're waiting here for Justin to jump on with us, well, let's talk a little Cavs. Cavs in action tonight for preseason action. Game number 2. They lost to the Hawks the other night, 108-107. And I don't know what I didn't get to see the game. I saw some highlights. I read a little bit about it. I saw the statistics. Look like the Cavs are trying to get up more 3-point shots and play maybe a little bit looser or faster of a pace. What
Mhm.
were your impressions from the game?
Yeah, I know the pace was definitely noticeably higher. I mean, they were one of the slower teams in the league last year. With the starters on the floor, they were pretty well above what they averaged last year. So that's good to see. They didn't shoot great, which, it's preseason game number one. I don't super care about that. Like, I'm not really worried about Garland's ability to hit a three. I think he went 1 for 10, maybe something like that. But I mean, there were some encouraging things from some of your young guys. Okoro played well. Hopefully, you can't hear the dog. Okay, Gus, it's okay. But like Okoro, I mean, he led the team in scoring. That's a definite good thing. Obviously, he brings his defense. And then Amani Bates looked good. So, on the offensive side, I still have questions on the defensive side of the ball, but some encouraging signs from your young players.
Yeah, certainly. They've got no Allen, so they're kind of right now, no Jared Allen with the bruised ankle.
Right.
And they are getting, I guess, an opportunity to experiment with some lineups and such. Like you saw and I saw in the stat line, Garland certainly didn't have his best offensive performance, or what we would hope to see during the regular season, but that's okay. He did have a nice chase down block, though. I did see that.
You did. LeBron
That
out there.
Yeah, it was very impressive, uh, for someone of his stature to get, man, some hops, showing some hops there and effort in a preseason game, and I like that.
Yeah.
I do like to see that kind of effort in a game that literally doesn't count.
Right.
So, that's kind of a nice thing, and he's not even the type of person who's trying to play for his spot in the rotation.
Yeah.
Do you think that, if as it stands right now, we don't know what the starting lineup is going to be from opening tip this season, but it does appear that maybe Okoro is going to be coming off the bench. Do you
Yeah,
think
for sure.
that will be a role that will suit him a little bit better than being in the starting lineup at that small forward position?
Potentially, yes. I mean, I think the part that you get a little bit concerned about is like, I mean, obviously, like I feel confident in his shooting that it's improved from time to time, year over year. So like, I'm less worried about that. But obviously, you need other teams to respect the spacing. They're not, respecting his place on the floor like they would, with any of our other shooters. So that's obviously, an issue for him. But coming off the bench, like you're taking out a lot of our scoring power. So the question then becomes like, does he have enough gravitational pull to, kind of space the floor well with the rest of the guys? Really, only Karras off the bench is creating his own shot for the most part. So yes and no, and I do apologize, Gus. You need to chill out. Thank you.
Well, Gus is just excited because it's basketball season.
He's excited about something, a tennis ball under some furniture, I think.
Well, that's the nice thing about pets and dogs. It doesn't take much to please them. It really doesn't. And they're there at the end of the day, and they're always happy to see us as owners. No matter
Stop.
no matter how crappy of a day we've had, they're happy to see us. So that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
That's good stuff right there.
As with my work
Yeah,
meetings, I like to point out that this is not a normal occurrence. So this is not my dog. This is another dog
right,
whom I'm watching.
right. Yes, blame. It's all good. Maybe a milk bone or some rawhide will help the situation there. I don't know. But no, you talked about being able to create scoring off the bench. Now, while it's obviously going to be early, someone you just mentioned, Imani Bates. There's certainly a possibility that he's willing to shoot it. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And he's got some athleticism. Like you said, he might need to improve a little bit on the defensive end. But that gives you a little bit of reason for hope, at least in my mind. Whereas, we haven't always had that guy off the bench. I would love for Okoro to come in and be a great, like the microwave, Vinny Johnson, be that guy, come off the bench and light it up. And he's also can bring some energy. He's a great defender. I think we would all agree to that. It's just a matter of, as you said, spreading the floor and getting people to respect respect him for his shot, and hopefully that'll come, because obviously there was a time when people didn't respect LeBron James from beyond the 3 point arc on a consistent basis. Heck, I don't even think, Michael Jordan, it wasn't until later in his career that he developed a 3 point shot that was of any sort of consistency. So it will certainly be interesting. Tonight, the Cavs taking on the Magic. And, we're gonna jump off this train for just a minute here, because we have got Justin Cooper. So I'm gonna bring him onto the scene. And good evening, Justin. Welcome to Going Nuclear, full blown coverage of the land. Thank you for joining us once again. How are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you guys doing?
We are doing great. Again, thank you so much for coming on. I know you are extremely busy, and with all the Browns news going on today and every day, it really must keep you. It keeps you on your toes, doesn't it? Now.
Oh my gosh, yeah, it keeps me on my toes every single day. Another just crazy day from Berea, so definitely keeps me on my toes every day with this team or something new.
Yes, or most people are like, it's the same old story, always something. I don't know about you, but I find myself, you know, going down the rabbit hole on social media, and it's constantly the people complaining
Mm-hmm.
a- and calling the players trash, the coaches trash, and just all in all negativity. How do you manage to avoid that and not fall into that?
Um, I think it's very easy to fall into it if you're a fan because you've been put through so much pain and heartache over the years. But I think at some point the culture's got to change. I just talked to someone at the station about this the other day. Um, everyone always talks about that cliche, the loser mentality. If you keep thinking like a loser, you're going to keep you're going to keep losing. And I think the Browns fans have been conditioned to waiting for the other shoe to drop so often. Um, and I think anytime that they get the chance to complain about that other shoe dropping, even if it's a little preempted, the shoe hasn't dropped yet. You shouldn't be freaking out at this point. Yes, Deshaun will not play Sunday. Does that mean
Right.
the season is over? No, you still have a great defense, but I understand some concerns. Like there's some logical concerns there, and I just tweeted out earlier that there's concerns with the rust factor. We saw Deshaun come out this year rusty. He looked a lot like last year Deshaun. He looked like he hadn't played football for a couple of years, and that's just strictly how it's been. He came into the season rusty. He's been trying to shake that off, and against Tennessee, he looked like he did shake that off. And now you got him sidelined for 3 weeks. Yeah, I'd be concerned about that factor, but that by no means says that this season is over. So I think you got to look at it kind of logically, and you got to start to change the culture eventually here. And I think this team is good enough to where they can change the culture now. There's an onus on these fans to kind of join them in changing that culture. It doesn't just take one player, um, you know, a good roster to do that. It takes a whole city to do that. So I think, you look at the Ravens, even the Steelers this year, the Steelers, they definitely don't have a top to bottom roster nearly as talented as the Browns yet. Browns went in there in Pittsburgh and, the Steelers ended up coming away with it because they expected to win that game. They knew they were in Pittsburgh playing in front of their home fans. And they came out and, you could say that the Browns lost that game, but, the Steelers were the more resilient team. They looked like a team that knew when a game got into crunch time how to win those ball games. So I think it begins at with fans to answer your question. I really try to stay out of it because I believe that this team is good enough. And I believe that there can be a real culture change here in the city of Cleveland.
Yeah, and Justin, you're there now
Mm-hmm.
every day, and you get to see these guys. Well, first of all, what's the vibe like or been like this week, and how has it been in general, throughout the season?
Yeah, I think I was very impressed earlier in the year. Like this locker room is so tight knit. They're always joking around with each other. They're joking around, getting into each other's interviews, whether it's from the podium and when they're doing personal interviews. Um, they're just such a close knit team. And one thing that caught my eye was going into week one, being in that locker room, and with all the expectations on this team, with all the pressure on this team, you would expect it to kind of be tense going into there. And when I got in there, everyone was lively. They were all ready to go. Um, they were having fun with each other. They were just loose. And you could see that from immediately when you walked into the locker room. Miles, went up to the podium that day, and he was just so loose and relaxed. And, that defense was ready to go. And you saw that on the field Sunday. I think that's been the most impressive part and why I think this team is so much different than teams in the past. And why, I kind of want Browns fans to put their arms around this team a little bit more in terms of when they go through a struggle, because I feel like they're that good where they can turn around and go on a run of, 5 straight games, But I think, it does have an effect on players, their vibe, when they're hearing all this outside noise. And you've seen that kind of trickle into the locker room this week and the week before, that they're hearing all this noise. And instead of talking about how great the defense is, we're talking about, is Deshaun going to be on the field? How are these injuries going to stack up? And that takes a lot in the locker room. And they still, are close and have tried to be as vibrant as possible. But you can tell it's kind of leaked into there just a bit, to where you can kind of see, they're kind of just waiting and seeing if, Watson will play, and, what is going to entail that game against the 49ers.
Right, right, and I'm sure that is difficult to have to deal with the not knowing factor. But I'm sure that I would have to guess they probably know before we know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then they get asked questions, and they've got to kind of keep things
Right.
tight-lipped. And what here I this, I want to get your perspective on it
Yep.
as a fan slash reporter and journalist. Like, do people expect too much of these players? Do they expect too much of the reporters to try and drag something out of the players?
Um, that's a good question. I don't think so. I think that there is a duty on all sides to be, kind of upfront as possible. I know fans are kind of frustrated being put in the dark and, um, having to wait all the way up until Sunday before kickoff to know if their quarterback's going to be playing. Um, but in reality of the situation, it was one of those things where, hey, there really wasn't a whole lot of information. I firmly believe, from all the reports that I got, and from speaking with the team throughout the week before the Ravens game, I had all the confidence in the world that Deshaun was going to start. Even AVP spoke from the podium and he said, hey, I'd be shocked if he didn't play in this game. And he looked like, he was sincere in that. He came out and he was on the practice field, but he wasn't throwing a whole lot. And before the game, he just couldn't go. And all the coaches seemed pretty confident that he was going to play. So I think, in terms of Deshaun, they were being truthful. And, hey, this is an AC joint injury. He bruised it. We thought that, he would have been over it by now. Right now, he's just not throwing it with the same velocity. And, we had thought that he would be ready for the Ravens game. So fans got to understand it. I understand that it's kind of hard to believe that when you're near the outside looking in. But someone coming from inside that locker room who's there every day, I'll tell you that it seemed like, from what Deshaun was saying, from, what coaches were saying, that they fully expected him to play. And now, it's obviously his throwing shoulder. So it's kind of, if you can't throw, you can't throw. And I completely get the functionality standpoint of it, where, we know Deshaun to be that guy who's going to tough it out and, work through. We've seen him play with a collapsed lung, seen him played with a slight ACL tear at Clemson. And, we know that he's a tough guy. Alex Van Pelt said that today. He said, I will never question his toughness. We know if Deshaun could be out there. And that, if you want to be concerned about that from a fan standpoint, listen, I totally get that. It means, could be a mirror into this. Hey, maybe this injury is something more than what we thought. If, a guy who would be out there playing isn't out there playing and he's medically cleared. So I completely get the standpoint from all different sides, but I just think this situation as a whole is a very touchy situation. I don't think you could say that, I can understand concern from all sides in that aspect.
Certainly. And I have, in my opinion, taking into consideration all that we've heard, I feel, and, for the people that are, really upset, well, they said he was medically cleared and they said this, it's like, as they've followed up, they all believed he was going to be better and be
Yep.
able to play, and there isn't anything structurally wrong, but it just hasn't healed and allowed him to do that. And then there's the people who are like, "Oh, well, he was fine afterwards." It's like if you get into a car accident,
Yep.
you might not feel anything right away. It's the next morning that you really feel it after the adrenaline wears off and so on and so forth. And I don't know. To me, I've driven myself nuts. But that being said, all right, we've talked enough about okay, the injury, the outside looking in. So PJ Walker is going to be under center this season. He actually has been, he's got some experience, a little more experience than DTR. And it sounded like from what Kevin said yesterday that certainly he'd have a game plan. He'd have some things in place for whomever's under center. In this case, PJ Walker.
Yep.
Based upon what you've seen of the Browns this season and what you know about PJ Walker, what do you think their best path to success on Sunday is going to be?
Well, I think what they're kind of planning on doing is what they didn't do against the Ravens, and that's, kind of keep that offense at bay and then, pick and choose your spots. We're kind of looking for like game management in terms of PJ Walker. DTR took a lot of shots that were unwarranted, put the Browns in a lot of bad situations, and I think that's why they made this move from DTR to PJ Walker in the first place, because they felt like kind of played them out of a game that they could have won. Now, obviously, no coach said that, so I don't want anyone to quote me on that and say, run these coaches against DTR. But I think that in reality, I think that Browns fans shouldn't expect anything, crazy especially going against potentially the best defense in the league. That front is going to be menacing, but I think that that PJ Walker he's really going to have to get the ball out fast, and I think they're going to rely on their run game, regardless if Deshaun played or he didn't play. Stefanski has been preaching all week that they have to get this run game going, and the AVP as well. So I think they're going to lean heavily on Jerome Ford and hopefully get Kareem Hunt back into football condition here. I know it's been a slow couple of weeks for him, but I think they're going to lean on the run. And I think that they should expect PJ Walker in more of a game manager role, a guy who's not going to make a ton of mistakes, and a veteran quarterback who's been there.
Right.
DTR's just got to sit back and be ready.
Yeah.
If PJ Walker gets hurt, he's the last line of defense for the Browns. So I think it was more or less the turnover factor, not putting him in bad situations, and maybe the Browns defense can get them out of there with a win.
Right. There's two things that you brought up. You're talking about the run game.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's been talking, and all signs are pointing to Batonio not being able to play.
Mm-hmm.
It appears. What's the latest on the offensive line? Posix injury. Jed Wills having his struggles this season, and he's got a tough task ahead of him this weekend. And we might have lost Justin here. Nope, there we go.
You got me?
Yes, I got you, Justin.
Yeah, things are looking bleak in terms of that offensive line. Jed Wills has not been up to snuff this year in their run. their run blocking just hasn't been up to par, especially to their standards. Now, obviously, losing Nick Chubb is a big part of that. He kind of covers up a lot of those holes that the offensive line may have. Joe Bitonio, I mean, it's not looking good for Joel so far. Ethan Posich has a chance to play. The bye week came at a good time for Ethan. Obviously, it was a pretty gruesome injury when he first went down. He left the locker room in crutches, but that bye really helped him out. If they had a game that following week, he definitely wouldn't have been out there. So hopefully they get Ethan back on the field. Joel, obviously the heart and soul of that offensive line. If you need to get this run game going, you're definitely going to have to rely on that big man. And not having him out there would be a huge loss for them. So to answer your question, I mean, I think it's going to be a lot of next man up mentality for these guys. They're going to have to create some push. And, whether or not they're going to be able to do that, I don't know. That defensive line for the 49ers is pretty fierce inside and out. So that would be a legitimate concern that not a lot of people are talking about. We're all talking about Deshaun Watson playing and not playing. Well, what could have gone in the decision to sit him in the first place is, your offensive line isn't up to par, and you have Nick Bosa on the opposite side. So you definitely want to make sure that you're putting him in there at 100% so that he doesn't re-injure that shoulder.
Right. I mean, I know there's discussion that's saying, well, I guess technically you could re-injure it, and maybe you're more susceptible. I know they said that just in general, and when I say they, I mean the reports I've heard, are that you can't further injure it with the throwing, but I got
No,
you.
but you not further injure it, but with a bone bruise in any certain bruise, it's not going to help if you keep hitting that bruise.
Right.
Your dad tells you all the time when you hurt something like, it hurts when I touch it. Well, don't touch it. So it's that old adage that you can't injure it further in terms of causing structural damage, but you might halt the healing process a little bit in that process.
Yeah, and how much are two things. I don't want to forget this question. We've seen Stefanski work with guys as game managers. We've seen him with Case Keenum in Minnesota and in Cleveland. We've seen him really a lot of the time in 2020 that Baker Mayfield looked good. He was kind of doing what he was asked to do. Nick Mullins in emergency duty. Jacoby Brissett played pretty admirably last year. When you look at all of that, the totality of the circumstances, does that give you more confidence that a game plan can be drawn up successfully for Walker to execute?
I don't know, Ethan. When you look across and see that defense on the other side, I know we're looking for bright spots here. I think that this, it'd be a different story if this was a team that had an elite defense and just an average offense. But they have an elite defense and they have a very good offense. And Brock Purdy has definitely shown up this year, Christian McCaffrey, and they can do so many things to hurt you. Certainly more in my mind than what I thought that the Ravens could do to hurt you. And they have significantly less weapons. You could argue that they have two MVP candidates on that team in Christian McCaffrey and Brock Purdy. And that's not even talking about Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle. So, plus they pose a threat on the offensive line as well. You have Trent Williams there. And Trent Williams is one of the best tackles in the league. He's going against Myles Garrett. And, the offense or the defensive line for the Browns is great. But Trent Williams is also great. And I get that he's only one guy, but listen, when he's trying to neutralize your best defensive player in Myles Garrett, that's not a matchup that, you want to have. You want to have an advantage somewhere. So to your point, Ethan, I think that it's hard because there's so many good qualities of this 49ers team that you're looking around and you're like, well, where's the hole? And I think that's why them and Philly are so, renowned throughout the league, is because They don't have a lot of holes, and I don't think a game manager is going to win you this game. It doesn't give me any more comfort knowing that Stefanski's worked with these other quarterbacks in the past. I've had the feeling this game you're going to have to put points up on the board. And the Browns defense, as good as it is, they haven't been, Legion of Boom good, where you look at that defense and say, okay, they might not let up a touchdown.
Right.
I could have said that if they would have put together a more complete game against the Ravens, but they had a few big plays, and the Ravens kind of exploited them in the running game. And the 49ers can do much more than what the Ravens can do.
Yeah, Kyle Shanahan really is he's a great coach, and certainly, I mean, we were unfortunate to have him here at a time when there were some decisions made that led to a very emphatic and detailed PowerPoint presentation, unfortunately. Okay, well, you know what? I know that you are here on limited time, and so I want to thank you for stopping by, taking time out of your busy schedule to chat with us.
Yeah.
And hopefully the Browns will scheme something up and be able to stay in the game. As you said, some of those turnovers came in against the Ravens, came at inopportune times, put the defense in a bad spot, and they couldn't also the offense couldn't stay on the field, and I'm sure that impacted the defense as well. So hopefully they will reverse those fortunes this week.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think that's the biggest thing is taking care of the ball and letting this defense work, and hopefully you get a squeak out a few touchdowns and end up getting out of Cleveland Browns Stadium with a victory. But wishful thinking, I know, for Browns fans. I know you're staring at 2-3 down the barrel, but like I said on Twitter, you got to be more concerned about the rust with Deshaun rather than the injury.
Right. Well, now we're going to have something to think about here. Yeah, I don't know. I am going to go with what Aaron says in the morning when he hosts RBS, and he talks about his great grandpa Gene.
Yeah.
Hope for the best, expect the worst. So I'm going to hope for the best.
Yep.
That's all we can do. That is all we can do. So all right, Justin. Well, I know you were here for just a short time and you have to get going, and we will let you do that. We'll be looking for all your tweets, and we'll be following you along.
Yeah, everyone that wants to follow me for all your Browns updates at JJCoop25 on Twitter.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, just follow me there.
Yes, absolutely. Keep up the great work. Stay positive despite what all these people say, and don't get in any fights with anybody on Twitter. I don't know if you saw it. There was a little bit of a brouhaha with Daryl Ryder.
Yeah, Daryl's one of my good buddies. He's sitting next to me in the media room, so I'll be sure to talk to him about it and get his take on things.
Yeah, he had a little brouhaha yesterday with a fan, and
Daryl always has brouhaha. Daryl speaks his mind. That's one thing that I love about him. He's a great guy, and he's been a great resource to me in that media room. So Daryl does some great work, and I appreciate him. And one thing that I appreciate is he always speaks his mind, and he's always poking fun. And
that is awesome. Yeah, that is awesome, and I love the insight. Justin, my fellow Kent State guy. I love it.
Go Flashes, guys.
Go Flashes. All right. Justin, we'll let you go. Justin Cooper joining us. Remember to follow him, Browns beat reporter for ESPN Cleveland, 850 WKNR at JJCoop25. Well, that was interesting, Madison. Did you have any new takeaways based upon what Justin told us?
I mean, the thing that I want to know, and I was dealing with the dog, so I couldn't come off of mute to ask, but has he gotten a second opinion? I just don't know how the prognosis changed so much from he will play to it being several weeks later, and we're calling him out on a Thursday.
Yeah, and my thought process was this. Well, first of all, did you catch what Justin said when he said we're talking about an AC joint here?
Mm-hmm.
See, that's at the they're calling it, and I don't know about you, and I look at this from my my day job, and knowing some of and a past shoulder injury, you probably are fairly familiar with all this, but he said AC joint, and I don't know if that is synonymous with rotator cuff, or if it's just part of the rotator cuff.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know enough about it. Shoulder's like the one thing I haven't hurt yet. Knock on wood.
Oh, thank goodness, thank goodness. But it's very difficult. And my and as we were talking about it, I think that honestly, they felt, hey, this is a bruise. It should heal. It should heal in this amount of time. Should be good to go. He felt like, yeah, it's a bruise. I'll wake up. It'll be gone. It will be all good. And it hasn't happened. And if they've done, I guess if they've done the MRI, that is a sign that, and then they've looked at it. So that's a sign they're not seeing anything, like they said, structurally.
Right.
I was listening to a report a little earlier, and I've gone blank on who it was that I was, who was doing the report, what I was listening to, but they said, I think actually it was Mary Kay Cabot. She was on Pat McAfee.
Yeah,
And she was saying that you could see he is in the building getting treatment. They do the cupping thing on the shoulder. You could see the marks. So I think it's not healing as fast as they would have liked. And I guess one question I would have for some of the staff, or, obviously, the reporter wouldn't necessarily know this, but I'd love to know from the staff, from a doctor, if he had to play, could he do something to do it? I mean, if you think about back in the day, guys would just get shots of whatever,
yeah,
and they'd go back out there.
right.
So I don't know. Is it a Lamar Jackson type thing, like at the end of last season, where everyone's like, "Oh, he can play. It's just a bruise. It's and he's like, I can't do it."
Yeah, I mean, from experience, like I feel like sometimes like I've had injuries where like there may not be anything super visibly wrong. Like I didn't tear anything in my knee explicitly, but I have a lot of fluid in my knee, and I can tell
Right.
you with certainty it makes it difficult to do anything running wise, right? So like it feels like it's a situation a little bit like that. And I know fluid in the shoulder had come up, I think before
Yes.
the Ravens game. So yeah, I mean, it'd be nice to have someone with more medical knowledge than me. I'm just basing it off of my own experiences, but it can be something that makes it hard. I mean, especially with joints and like being able to like actually use your joint to the full extent that you typically would. It's hard when you've got a ton of fluid in there. You can't like bend like you normally would, and I'm sure that impacts his ability to throw.
Right. And I've heard this, and this is a phrase I use, and actually heard my man Emmett Golden use it today. But I first heard it many, many years ago watching The Simpsons. And it goes a little something like this. Well, you're damned if you do, and you're damned if you don't.
Yeah.
So if Watson goes out there and plays and doesn't play well, why did you put him out there in the first place? You knew he couldn't do it. Why did you do that?
Right.
If he doesn't play, oh, he's soft. He's letting the team down. He got his money. That is first of all, I'm going to prematurely go nuclear for a moment. I'm sick and tired of everybody talking about his money and how it seems like it actively affects them on a daily basis. We don't pay a darn bit of that. Okay. We would be going to the game and we're paying for all those guys when we go to the game. Quit talking about his money. He's an athlete. He's competed at the highest level. Just shut up with the money. Shut up with the money. Let's think about it logically as to what the injury is, to the extent that we know. And for heaven's sake, can we just cheer for the team? As Justin was talking about, you have to change the culture. And that it's really disheartening. The people, and I don't know if it's the vocal minority or if it's the majority of the people that are that negative.
Yeah, they make it hard though to be positive sometimes. It's just hard.
And they do. And that is why, with my best friends, when it comes to sports takes and especially the Browns, I generally don't have my phone. I have it on mute so that I'm like, okay, I will look at this when I'm ready to. I'm not going to do it right now because I don't need to be upset. it might be a little bit of reality, but it's like putting salt in the wound.
Right.
I don't need that as a fan. I've got enough going. There's enough going on. Sports is supposed to be kind of an escape
Right.
as a fan. So I'm going to choose to enjoy them, and I'm going along for the ride, whatever happens. So as we were just talking with Justin, PJ Walker is going to start. PJ Walker out of Temple. He played in 15 games over the course of 3 seasons down there for the Panthers. Total of 5 touchdowns, 11 interceptions. Last season, in 6 games, he had 3 TDs, 3 picks. You know, I know what Justin was saying, that they've got a very the 49ers have a very good offense, and Kyle Shanahan will have them have a good game plan for them. So it's gonna be difficult, but gotta think that they, being able to attract attention to Myles Garrett, if they can get anybody, if they could get some of that defensive line to step up, if you can get Zadarius Smith to have a good game, or Dalvin Tomlinson, Maurice Hurst has been playing fantastic in the middle.
Yep.
We have been so far, but for really that one breakdown in Pittsburgh with George Pickens, really the defensive backfield has been very, very good.
Right.
Very, very good. So I'm going to choose not to. I'm not going to sit here and say we will win. The Browns will win. I'm just not going to do that. I'm not going to convince myself of that. But I'm also not going to be doom and gloom. If they lose, okay, and it's not the end of the world. It's only game number 5. Other teams are inexplicably losing.
Yeah.
And as you said, and have maintained, the game we're going to be kicking ourselves in the butts about is the Pittsburgh game.
Right. Yeah.
And I got to think that had Nick Chubb not gotten hurt, I think we would have easily won that game.
Yeah.
I think that obviously Nick Chubb not being in there changes the game plan. It doesn't change the fact that we were careless with the ball and gave away the game. But certainly that had to impact the team at that immediate moment, to see their best player, their heart and soul go down like that. So they've really got to regroup. Now, I was looking at this about Brock Purdy. His story is just incredible. And first of all, I hate to even use the term, but I use it because they have said it over and over, and that's what they've phrased it. The last pick of the NFL draft they call Mr. Irrelevant.
Right.
Is Brock Purdy kind of, and this is a very early part of his career, so this is very premature, but is he forming his own Brady-esque story?
What I think is interesting is, like, right now you have the debate, right? Like, is it Brady or is it Belichick? And like, after Brady left, it appears it was maybe Brady. And it kind of feels the opposite a little bit, I think, for Shanahan. I mean, I'm not saying he's not good, but I do think that Shanahan has a lot to do with his play. And I've heard a couple people that they've had on the radio from his time with the Browns throughout this week saying, like, how much he simplifies things. There's no real thinking involved. Like, it's just boom, 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 get the ball out to who it needs to go to.
Right.
And so, that makes it easier on a quarterback. And obviously they have so many weapons. It helps with that. But I think the way it's trending, we may end up with one of those debates. Like, is it Brock Purdy or is it Shanahan?
Yeah. And I mean, Shanahan, for what it's worth, when he was here, he had Brian Hoyer looking amazing.
Yeah.
But the front office had to meddle in it.
Yeah.
And really poop the bed on it, to put it nicely.
Little bit.
Little bit. I mean, so far the guy is Brock Purdy, 9 touchdowns, no interceptions, 72.1% completion percentage on the season. The only game he started in his career that they lost was the game when he got knocked out and his arm was falling off, and he couldn't throw the ball. So I really don't even count that against him. I mean, that's unreal.
Yeah.
That is absolutely unreal. So my question to you, and kind of along the lines of what we were talking about with Justin, for you, as you look at this matchup,
Mhm.
is there any one player on the offensive side of the ball and the defensive side of the ball that that need to be the players who step up if the Browns have an opportunity to win this game?
It's an interesting question. Can I say the defensive coordinator? Because I think Schwartz's record against him is quite impressive and
It is. It is.
something to consider. I think. I mean, I think that's my pick on the defense if it's allowed. Is what
I
he can
will allow it. Hey, we got no rules here.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's obviously put guys in position. He's got them flying around all year. I mean, Ravens game aside, I do think, to your point, that the offense wasn't out there long enough to really give them a breather. And when you're tired, that's kind of the result. You're lagging behind a little bit. Or, I mean, like in the one play, I think it was Martin Emerson in coverage, and he had to cover for like what felt like 15 seconds, like just forever to try to keep up with a really fast Zay Flowers. So, yeah, I think hopefully he's got something schemed up again, and Shanahan hasn't figured it out yet. Because I mean, I think it's like what 1-9, something like that.
Yes, he has done well. Now, what about on the offensive side of the ball?
Oh, I mean,
Entire groups are allowed to,
yeah, everybody wants the running game to get going. I mean, Ford, I think, popped up on the injury list today too with something like he was limited in practice. He's got some kind of knee injury. Obviously, they're getting hit in the backfield. So I would maybe put it on the offensive line. Like, you've got to move bodies at this point. I mean, both in the run game and the pass game. Like, you cannot we've got to help on Nick Bosa. Obviously, I don't think you can put anyone on an island out there, although DeJuan Jones did do okay with TJ Watt. But I'm sure he'll be on the other side going up. Yeah, we won't talk about Wills. But yeah, as a unit, I think they have to really step up. I mean, they have fallen off a bit, and it's easy to point to like, oh, there's no Nick Chubb, so that's probably why. And then you start to question, well, were they really as good as we thought? So I think it's a game they got to prove it, that they are as good as we thought. They're still ranked pretty highly on some lists for offensive line play. So, like, go prove it. Like, this is your game. You're going to be the one that makes a difference on the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like like you said, on the defensive side of the ball, obviously a good game plan from Schwartz is one piece of the puzzle. And then on top of the good game plan, you've got to have some guys who are going to make outstanding effort plays.
Right.
And I really think with the game plan from Shanahan to get the ball out of Purdy's hands quickly, that's going to be made more difficult if the defensive backs are playing cover as well as they have been so far. I don't want to jinx that, and so I say so far. But if they're playing as well as they have, that's going to make it tighter windows for Purdy to throw into. If the defensive line can move, can implode the pocket a little bit, that's going to make his life tough. And we've played pretty decent against McCaffrey, although when we played him, he was in Carolina, and that's not the same team around him that he's got in San Francisco. Obviously, that makes it tougher. So I think there's got to be somebody impactful that maybe we're not thinking of. Maybe it's a JOK.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as far as players in my head as you were talking. Because, I mean, he's got to hit the hole and get CMC down, like on first contact.
Right. They've got to, if they do the fundamentals well, there's going to be an opportunity for somebody to make a play. On the offensive side, it really is, like you said, it's the offensive line, because it's a domino effect. If the offensive line plays up to its capabilities and can be elite, it's going to open up the running game. You're going to be able to eat up clock. You're going to make life a little bit easier on PJ Walker.
Right.
We have seen this team in the past without Nick Chubb do well in the ground game. We've seen Dearness Johnson We've seen, I mean, I know it was really the bulk of it was the one play for Jerome Ford against Pittsburgh. We've in the past, Kareem Hunt has been successful. There have been other guys other than Nick Chubb to be successful in the ground game for the Browns behind this offensive line. Kevin Stefanski is going to have to coach his rear end off this week. And Bill Callahan's got to get the offensive line motivated. They got to do whatever they got to do. I know that there's been discussion about the use of Elijah Moore and that maybe this is not the game to stop using him in so many actions out of the backfield, but because, your opportunities might be limited. But that guy, the play when he went backwards 20 yards was just ludicrous. Absolutely ludicrous.
He's pressing a little bit, yeah. He's
A
trying to
little
make
bit, just a tad, just a tad. So I don't know. And the other story that I wanted to make sure I hit on, I don't know about you, but wow, I was really impressed with David Njoku.
Yeah,
Did you catch the pictures that he posted?
I did see
Oh,
that.
poor guy. I mean, he must be in immense pain with those burns. And to play through them like he did against Baltimore was amazing. Nothing short of amazing. And he did it in a losing effort. But he went out there and did what he did. And he will be missed.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't sound like he's going to play. And that kind of stinks.
I mean, I could see him not practicing and playing.
Right.
I just think, he's just one of those dudes that, he's pretty much, unless you drag him off the field, and maybe they do. Maybe they just tell him, look, man, it's not the game. Shut it down, rest up, heal up. But
Right.
if it's up to him, I think he probably tries to find a way onto the field. I mean, it was just really interesting, the contrast between, the conversation around Watson from Kevin specifically. It was his choice not to go, very specific. It was his choice, not like in our, let's collective, let's not place blame,
Right.
which is interesting. And then there was a heaping of praise on Njoku for playing through what he played through, which rightfully so. He deserves that. That is an incredible thing to play through. I can't even imagine. But it was just an interesting difference that I noted.
It is. And you wonder about that. But maybe and maybe Kevin does deserve a little, if there's a blame pie, to go around, a piece of that. Maybe Kevin taking Deshaun at his word and his confidence that he was exuding about his ability to play. And then he put his neck out on the line kind of with the media, that he was feeling salty. And so then it was his decision not to play. He was medically, that
100%. I agree with that. Yeah, I do think that's what happened. I mean, it's also interesting since DTR specifically said he didn't know till 10:30 that he was
right. But that being said, he didn't know till 10:30. Apparently, none of the other guys knew till 10:30.
Yeah.
And I feel like he wasn't mentally prepared.
Yeah.
And he should have been. He should have been preparing himself as if I am in. Whether even if Watson goes down with an injury in the middle of the game, he needs to be ready to go. And and something that Justin said, and he then said, well, don't no coach has said this,
right?
But it sounded like his impression, and I wouldn't disagree. And I'm not, I don't want to put any words in his mouth, but yeah, maybe DTR threw up some questionable passes and that weren't called for. He had the option and he's like, that's it. I'm throwing it down the field no matter what. Kind of like that guy. Did you hear that? Sorry to switch topics on you, but did you hear the cringeworthy exchange with Penn State coach James Franklin and the reporter? Oh my. You're going to have to look.
You got to listen to it.
You're going to have to listen to it because the guy is asking him this question. He's like, Franklin's like, I don't even know what you're asking. Well, don't you ever just, tell him to throw it up, even if it's triple coverage? No, I wouldn't. It was the craziest.
Oh boy.
I don't know who the reporter was, but I feel like my youthful reporting might have had not quite as public of a cringeworthy moment as that, but I feel like I might have asked dumb questions or ill-advised questions in my youth. So yeah, that's going to be. It's all very interesting. Moving on from the Browns here, just for a moment, the Buckeyes back in action this weekend. They will take on the Boilermakers in West Lafayette. Go to Purdue, and you know, the one thing that's been talked about, and I'm well aware of it, having watched for many years, is the pitfalls in at Purdue. Urban
Mhm.
Meyer in 2018 just got crushed. We've
Right.
seen Jim Tressel got upset there, and I think for a lot of fans, I mean, you can go back further than that, but in recent memory, with all these successful coaches that they've had, to get tripped up in West Lafayette, I don't know what it is. I think I suggested to somebody that they need to steal the big drum. It's
Not a bad plan.
I think that's where all their powers come from. Is the large drum. Um, I'm not sure what the deal is, but yeah, it was tough. I gotta say I was a little bit discouraged watching the game against Maryland, and I tried to go back and read some articles, find some quotes, and figure out if that fake punt in their own territory was
Yeah.
in fact a fake or a muff.
That'd be a pretty bad muff because I mean it was very directionally snapped, I thought.
Right. Or was the snapper thinking that was the call?
You had the read. Yeah, maybe.
I don't know, and I couldn't find anything on that topic that said one way or another. I'm certainly glad they got it going. Hopefully, Travion Henderson will be back on the field for them, and the Ohio State definitely needs to get its offensive line to gel and win in the trenches, because that is where the big games are going to be won, especially against Michigan, a very physical football team. I love Paul Feinbaum now because he does trash Michigan so often, but I'm not quite as confident as him about where Michigan is as a team as compared to Ohio State. And to put it in context, Ohio State lost 3 offensive linemen from last year: Whippler, Jones, and Paris Johnson.
Yeah.
To lose 60% of your offensive line, that's pretty significant. So we shall see what happens there. Of course, I probably will not be watching it because it's on Peacock.
Oh, I don't have that either. That's one that I don't have.
Yeah, and I'm really sick and tired of all these streaming services.
Oh, that's why there is all the conversation about whether bars are showing it or not.
That is correct. You have nailed it on the
I
head.
did not realize that was why. I was like, well, why wouldn't they put the game on? I just assumed it would be on one of the big stations.
Right. They were saying that financially you have to pay a X amount of money per screen, and it's like I think you have to pay the whole season, and it's just nonsense. It really is. That's ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. If I really want to watch it, I guess I'll search for a pirated stream or something. I don't know. I'll figure out a way to do that. So with that, let's move on to a quick round of who you got. As I said in the open, we didn't do so well last week,
No.
to say the least. But that's okay. This week is a new week. Let's see if we can't do a little better. It is time for who you got. So Madison, tonight, the Swifties will be in the house as the Broncos visit the Chiefs, and even without the Swifties, I'm gonna just say I got Kansas City. I know you're a big Broncos person, but I'll just ask who you got.
Yeah, 0 chance that Kansas City is losing with Taylor Swift in attendance.
All right. Now, I haven't seen any update. I know that Kelsey was questionable.
Oh, he's playing.
Yeah, all right. He's got to impress his girlfriend.
He's in.
Right?
His toughness got to show it off.
There it is. Moving on, Sunday morning, across the pond once again, we've got the Ravens taking on the Titans. I know who I want to win.
Yeah.
But I will ask you who you got.
Yeah, I am taking the Ravens, although they did look not great last week. A lot of drops on that wide receiver room. So I'm still taking the Ravens, but I do have some doubts.
Yeah, I am also going to take the Ravens here. But I would gladly not be correct on that pick.
Take the L on that one, yeah.
I would gladly take the L on that one. I mean, the Steelers really did the Browns a favor, and exposed the Ravens for what they are. And it's like Justin said, they expect to win the game. They don't care that they've got, less talent across the board. They expect to win, and they found a way to do it. And that is, to me, what the Browns should aspire to be.
Yeah.
You know, at 1:00, we've got the Commanders at the Falcons. Madison, who you got?
I am going to take the Falcons, I think. That is a toss up, though, a bit.
It is a little bit of a toss up. I am going to take the Falcons as well, only because they've got it. It's at home. Washington has not looked great the past couple of weeks. So I feel like this is Atlanta's game for the taking. But it is a coin toss. It really is. Next up, we've got the Vikings at the Bears. It ought to be a heck of a clash from Soldier Field. Madison, who you got?
I will take the Vikings, I think, although not super confidently without Justin Jefferson, but I will still take the Vikings.
Oh, I had forgotten about the Jefferson aspect of it.
Shucks.
I'm still going to stick with what my pick, which is the Bears, which is the Vikings. So I think that they should win this game, and that's more just that Chicago not so good right now. They've got a lot of room to grow for sure. Seahawks at Bengals. Who you got?
I'm going to take Cincy. I fear they figured some stuff out last week.
Yes, I fear that as well. I tuned in on the multi-view. So I was watching the 4 games at one time, and I was watching them dissect the Cardinals. But it is the Cardinals. I know they played pretty, well early on, but at the same time, it is the Cardinals. And certainly Josh Dobbs throwing an interception at his own 6-yard line doesn't help the cause when you give momentum to the Bengals. And hopefully they haven't figured it out, but it does seem like they have. Moving on, New Orleans at the Texans. Who you got?
Let me find them on here. I have Houston again, which I've been picking them. They've let me down a little bit. They've been in some games. We had a nice drive from Stroud that got overrun last week, so I will still take Houston.
Yes, yeah, certainly. Stroud showing the composure and to lead them down to get that lead. They had it. They had it, just couldn't hold on to it. I also picked Houston. I am not impressed with New Orleans. Not impressed with them at this point. And I think that the game being in Houston, CJ Stroud is playing well. And as we talked about, the coach has them all playing pretty well early in this season. So I think that things are on the rise for Houston. And that's kind of unfortunate since we have them on the schedule. We being the Browns. Next up, we have the Minshew Magic Indianapolis Colts at the Jacksonville Jaguars. Madison, who you got?
I will take the Jaguars, although I don't think Minshew, I mean, he's not Anthony Richardson in terms of like running ability, but it's not like he hasn't won games in the league. So I still got to go Jaguars.
Yes, I am also going to go to the Jags. I thought that, I actually sat and watched one of their games. I watched the game a couple weeks ago in London and last week for that matter against
both the London games or London and wherever they played.
It is in London as well. Okay. They played at Wembley and they played at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
There you go.
There it is. So they stayed in London. But yes, I watched both of those games, and certainly Doug Peterson has them playing well, and I am going to go with the Jaguars just because I think they've got the advantage there. Although for the Colts, actually, and this, again, the Browns having them up next week, I think they've got a steadying hand under center in Minshew.
Hmm.
He's not going to do anything phenomenal,
Right.
but he also is pretty solid. He is
Right.
certainly a solid backup and can come in and do the starting duties. I'd almost rather face the the youngster in Anthony Richardson. I
Right.
think we could take advantage of him, and Schwartz could design some coverages to really mess with him. But we'll talk more about that next week when we get into the Colts. Next up, we got the Panthers and the Dolphins. Is there any questioning about this one?
Nope, I don't think so.
No, I
Good
don't
luck
think
to the
so
Bears
either.
with that number 1 pick that the Panthers will send them.
Yep. Are the I think my question will be: will Tyreek Hill wear his uniform appropriately as to avoid any more further fines?
Yeah. Yeah, but
Yeah,
I mean, hey, you got that kind of money, you can do what you want.
exactly, exactly. It seems very anal retentive what the NFL has going on there.
They really pick on the most interesting things and let some of the other stuff go.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. Next up, we've got New England, the suddenly struggling. Maybe not that suddenly struggling. The New England Patriots at the Las Vegas Raiders. Mac Jones, he is on life support. Who you got?
I think you have to take the Raiders, but again, you don't feel good about it because you don't really like the Raiders either. But like the Patriots are in a deep, dark hole, and I almost think they are trying to tank by not benching Mac Jones. But
Yeah, maybe they and it might be one of those things where they're playing it out with him, knowing like, look, we're not going anywhere with Bailey Zappi either.
yeah,
And if we're gonna stink, let's find out once and for all if Mac Jones has any future and
right.
decide it right here, right now. And I think we've all got our answer. I'm also going with Las Vegas. And an interesting point, I was curious to find out who some of the quarterbacks were during the past 10 years or so for Alabama that have won their championships. And other than like Tua,
Mm-hmm.
none of them have been good quarterbacks. They
Yeah,
have been terrible. Greg McElroy, are you serious? What's his name? I don't even know that he won a change. McCarron?
yeah.
There was some guy I couldn't even now the name is slipping from me right now, but it was some odd name. And again, other than Tua, and I
If you count
guess I mean,
Hurts,
what's that?
if you count Hurts,
See,
you know,
well, I did not count him in that, and obviously, and in Bryce Young, we don't know yet. You know,
yeah,
that
but
it's
it's
too
not
early to
looking
be
great early
not
on.
looking great. Yeah, that's kind of funny when you look at it and you look at their history and how successful they've been. That quarterback hasn't been like top of the list.
Yeah, but they keep getting picked, so we'll see.
They do. Next up, the Lions at the Buccaneers.
Got to go Lions, I think. Sorry, Baker. Baker's playing well, but I think the Lions are playing better.
As do I. As do I. Um, the Cardinals, who we previously talked about, are at the Rams. Who you got?
I think I got to go Rams, although I do think the Cardinals will put up a good fight.
All right. Next up, I have also have the Rams, despite my concerns. This is ridiculous at this point. Um, I guess we go down. We succeed as a team, we lose as a team, or something like that. Here's the way the pick's going.
Something like that.
The Eagles at the Jets.
I think no surprise. Probably both taking the Eagles.
Yeah, I think so. I believe so. The interesting conversation that was going on was on the New Heights podcast. The Kelsey's talking about the potential that maybe defenses would try to um, allege or pretend to be injured so that the NFL will start reviewing the tush push and maybe outlaw it by next year. I don't know. That was very interesting. It's good fodder. And we'll see what Robert Saleh has up his sleeve. I just don't think they're going to have enough firepower to stick with the Eagles.
No.
Next up, Giants at Bills.
The Giants are also quite bad, so you got to go Buffalo there.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. I am also on that train. All right, last chance for us to disagree here. The Dallas Cowboys, who took a beating at the hands of San Francisco, they visit the LA Chargers on Monday night. Madison, who you got?
This is a tough one because the Chargers are coming off a bye. I did write Chargers in my little list here, but I think I want to flip to the Cowboys because they got beat down so badly. I think they bounced back this week, so I'll take the Cowboys. Unless I'm agreeing with you. For the sake of disagreement, I can go Chargers.
I think it's actually fun if we both go with the same picks, because it proves we are independently doing this here, and there's no collaboration. Because I have the Chargers picked. I feel like the the offense is going to take care of business. Elizabeth, just posted she is all about the Chargers on Monday night. So thank you, Elizabeth, for tuning in and voicing your opinion here on this matchup. But yeah, I'm going to go with the Chargers over the Cowboys. I think that although the Cowboys have a very good defense and Micah Parsons is outstanding, something tells me that the Chargers have enough offense to carry the day. We'll see. We'll see how Herbert's finger is as well.
Oh, yeah, that's a good point.
That I think he's all clear and it's going to be all good, but it certainly will be interesting. Plus, they're also going to have Austin Eckler back.
Yeah.
So that is good. That is definitely good.
For the sake of the fantasy team.
For the sake of the fantasy team. Yes, exactly. And with that, we are finished with our Who You Got. And now we move on to our weekly feature of what has us going nuclear. So, Madison, what has you going nuclear this week?
Should I say the dog again for hopping up into?
Hey, that was just, he's got a personality. We love dogs. Look, we had Rebecca Wild's dog in the podcast. I think, it's just starting to be a trend. We are fans of the dog pound. So, it's all good. No, but what's going on? What has you going nuclear?
So I think in honor of Taylor Swift attending another game today, I will go with the Taylor Swift themed going nuclear, which is really a more broad stroke going nuclear, I guess. But obviously you got Taylor Swift touring this summer. You got Beyonce touring this summer. And people have made it like a Beyonce versus Taylor Swift thing. And it's just not they don't do that with men typically, usually. And so Beyonce went to Taylor Swift's concert film premiere last night, and proof is in the pudding that they're cool. They don't have beef. They're hanging out. They're supporting each other. So can we all just chill out and support each other and just lift people up? It's not like there can only be one. In people's minds, there can only be one successful person. Has to be this person. Has to be this. Has to be me. There can be many. Let's help everybody succeed and let's just all get along.
Can't we all just get along?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like how men have to have the argument, who's the GOAT?
Yeah, exactly. They're all good. They're all good. They're all going to beat the brakes off of you.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I appreciate that. So I had a slew of things here, but I'm going to go with a lighthearted moment here of something that has me going nuclear. And it happens on a regular basis. But what has me going nuclear this week is good help is hard to find in the customer service industry. Mm-hmm. So on the regular, my wife and I, Emily and I, will go to the grocery store on the weekend to do our weekly shopping. Mm-hmm. And, we go to the same stores generally, and we even go to multiple locations of said same store. And we have run into the most oddball, crazy cashiers ever. You've got the old person working there that refuses to put your pizza in a bag. Oh, it'll get bent. It'll get smushed. Oh, wait, there's a dent in this can. Let me go and get, the most overcautious, ridiculous person, to the person who commented about the brisket we were buying. Oh, you're going to have some vampires over? Oh. I don't know.
That's weird.
Yeah, it was strange. It was cringeworthy. And then he started talking sports with me because I was wearing my Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell shirt. Oh, man, thanks for LeBron James. I'm a Miami Heat fan. I'm like, oh, goodness. Can we please Can we please get through this line? And it's just the most cringeworthy stuff. We purposely avoid certain people. We're like, oh no, that cashier's on whatever register, whatever it is. Nope, can't go to that one. Thankfully, they finally installed self checkout. So unless we have an extremely large order, or full grocery cart, we do it ourselves to avoid these things. But come on, can we not find some better help? Is it that hard to find more normal, personable people?
It is. I think the pandemic really ruined everyone's like social norms and cues, Like I think it hasn't been the same since everybody went inside for a period of time.
Yeah, they went inside. People are staying and hiding. I don't know what's going on. Then where they I'm glad, like, I'll put it this way. I am glad these people have jobs. That is great. They are working. I've got no problem with that. But maybe with the personality, maybe they'd be better suited to, I don't know, something behind the scenes, stocking shelves. Because that last line of contact, or your first and only line of contact at the grocery store, it leaves a lasting impression, as it does anywhere in customer service. So, what has me going nuclear this week is just the oddball cashiers I have to deal with that make my shopping experience a little bit less enjoyable, as much as you can enjoy your shopping trip. What a chore! What a chore! And that is what has me going nuclear this week. So, Madison, thank you as always. Fantastic show. And of course, it was great to have Justin Cooper from ESPN 850 WKNR talking some Browns with us. And we'll be back next week. I'm sure we'll have more to talk about.
Hopefully, maybe a surprise good thing. Maybe
we'll see. We'll see. Well, you enjoy. You have yourself a great weekend, and we will be back with more.
We didn't pick Browns Niners.
Oh, do we have to? You know what? I always save that for last, and I'm going to go Niners.
Yeah, I'm also going Niners.
Yeah, I maybe what it was is subconsciously I didn't want to have to do that because I'm like, oh, we all know, we all know that we hope for the best, but expect the worst. So,
Yep.
yeah. On that note, yay us. Yay us again. That's one of those games where it's like I'll be glad to lose on that one. So,
yeah.
Anyway, hopefully we'll have some pleasant surprises next week, and we'll have more in store for you here. Be sure to join us, follow us, like, subscribe on our YouTube channel, and that's going to do it here for Going Nuclear, full-blown coverage of the land.